The happy hour continues rolling on, and it's only getting happier. United are joint top. Joe, what is it? A semifinal, another cup, and a battle with Liverpool in 2 weeks? Let's get it started.
Hello and welcome to United Happy Hour. As Paulie said, let's get this started. Paulie, I'm always encouraged when we play that intro, mate, to see that the viewer numbers just keep going up and up and up, which is nice. I'm glad nobody switches off as a result of it. It shows that you've done some good work with that, mate.
Right.
Well done.
Video is what gets them to watch, and then we come on, and then they shut it off.
Yeah, then it starts to go down, but they're still going up at the moment, so let's make the most of it. Happy New Year to you, Paulie. I should say that, mate, and Happy New Year to all of our listeners out there. Hope you've had a great start to 2021. We know that Manchester United had a good start, probably, well, the best start they could have hoped for, really, haven't they, Paulie? But how are you, mate? How's your 2021 started?
It's been good. We got off to a win that made the weekend much better. We got it out of the way early too, which was also nice. 2 days where I just didn't have to worry about things. United taking care of business. That's a fun motto for 2021. Yeah,
it is. And, I think the nature of the last two wins in particular, Paulie, one obviously the end of 2020 with Wolves and the win against Villa, were very much kind of games where they were just taking care of business. They weren't great at times. They certainly weren't great for 90 minutes during all those games, but they did what they had to do to win the games. And I think that's an important trait to have at this particular point in the season, but also if you want to go on and win a title. Would you agree?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the Wolves game was as frustrating as a United Wolves game is and should be expected. They played 4 times in 2020 and they scored 2 goals. But they played a bunch of times in 2019 and there were 8 goals in those games. So maybe when we have to play Wolves again this season, which inevitably we will, probably in the 4th round of the FA Cup, we're probably gonna have to play them again this month. Yeah, and hopefully there are some more goals in that one. So it's good. Now, welcome into all the listeners. Get involved in the comments. We want to hear from you. We're gonna do a lot of comments and questions today. But let me set some ground rules. We will not be doing all transfer rumors and thoughts on this player and who do you want us to sign. The answer is, has been and always will be a defensive midfielder. Not a single performance that United have this season will change that. All right. Yeah. That is still the priority. One match in any way, shape, or form will not change that, including a very good display against Aston Villa. What impressed me the most, unfortunately, I didn't put the ball in the net much, but that first half against Aston Villa, this looked like a team that actually believed they could win the title.
Yeah. No, I liked the way that I liked the game against Aston Villa. I think it was more suited for us, Paulie, in the sense that Aston Villa, the way they set up, the way they approach the game, they're full of confidence. They came to Old Trafford thinking they could get a result, and I don't blame them. But I think that suited United because it just gave them a little bit more space to play rather than the Wolves game where they suffocated them. But United did it well, and the only criticism you could have with United in that game is that they maybe didn't shut it out a bit sooner, maybe made it 2-0, 3-0 when they were 1-0 up, and then obviously that last 10 minutes was a bit nervy as well. But look, it's positive for me that this team still got things to work on moving forward.
Yeah, I think they need to be a little bit more greedy, actually. There were some instances in that first half, notably, I sent it to you yesterday, Pogba letting that ball roll for Fred, of all people.
Yeah.
Paul, we'd rather you take a bad shot than Fred take a good shot. Until Fred proves that he could, shoot on target consistently and let alone put it in the net, we'd rather you take an off-balance shot with your right foot than let it roll to the top of the box for Fred. But that was the thing that bothered me in the first 15, 20 minutes against Everton in the League Cup when we were quote unquote dominating, was we were doing things like that, dummying in the box as if I'm going to do something fancy and it's just going to fall for someone. And at a certain point, you kind of want your big players, Bruno, Pogba, Martial to be a little bit more selfish. On the flip side, Marcus Rashford learned that you have teammates. How many times did he carry the ball with? At one point, he carried it up the entire pitch, and he made the right run. He cut inside and left Bruno wide open to just lay it off and play him in. And Rashford went up against 4 players and shot and blocked. So there's still areas for everybody to work on, but I'd rather be working on them from the top of the table than having to work on them as we move up.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's positive that United are in this situation where they are joint top at the moment, potentially could go top if they get a point or win that game in hand, hopefully win it, obviously. And that yet they still seem to have lots of things they can improve, Paulie, both on the pitch and off the pitch. And it's encouraging to see. We've not hit that ceiling yet, I don't think, this season. And hopefully, moving forward.
And you saw it. I mean, I think part of the thing was against Villa, we were tired. We have been playing a lot. We've been doing a good job of rotating the squad, but for all the flaws we have, you look around at everybody else and there's massive flaws everywhere else. And everybody's tired. The last 30 minutes of Liverpool and Southampton last night, where Liverpool were just too tired to really kick into another gear and turn up their attack. And they did. They devoted bodies forward. They left themselves open, and Southampton were just too tired to counterattack.
Yeah. The thing about Liverpool as well, Paulie, was for me is quite alarming. Just I think I said in the group chat last night, it's for me, he just doesn't rotate that front three well enough at the moment. And what you've got to remember is they're getting older. I know they're by far the most quality players they have, but I mean, I look at the Liverpool bench last night. It wasn't the strongest, but he did have Origi on there who scored a Champions League goal final. He has got Minamino, who I think he's still obviously trying to incorporate into the team, trying to make into a Premier League player. But sooner or later, he's got to trust.
It's been a year. I mean, how long is it going to take?
He's got to trust these players, Paulie, because if they're leggy now, what are they going to be come March, April if they're playing every Saturday, Wednesday, if you know what I mean?
Right, and it's not about who you can bring off the bench. And this is what I said at the beginning of the year when I was talking about our team, is it for Ollie, the key is to find a player that you could hide in there. Like every time when we got 53 minutes out of Daniel James against Leicester, and he actually had the pre-assist on the first goal. But he wasn't anything special, but he wasn't bad either. But that was 53 minutes that somebody else didn't need to play. And if you find areas like this where someone can eat the minutes, so, like playing Origi against the likes of a Crystal Palace or a Fulham or someone like that's huge. But then why'd you bring on Mo Salah for the final 30 minutes when you're up by 5 or 4? It's things like that. Like you just have to look at your players and be like, look, you're not going to play, but you've said it is he doesn't rotate that front three well enough. And the Virgil van Dijk injury, we're seeing how it hurts them. Remember before Van Dijk came in, Liverpool struggled to keep clean sheets. They were terrible defensively. They were fun to watch because they were fun to go forward and they were fun. And then it would also come back on them. And Van Dijk came in and really said it. And when he got hurt, I said, his injury isn't going to hurt them as much as I think people believe, because he established a mentality and that mentality is now still there. They didn't lose that. But often what happens is you end up just playing, your midfield protects that back four a little bit more and your fullbacks protect a little bit more and you still keep those clean sheets. You don't win 3-0 anymore. You rely on that front three to go out there because they are so good. To go out there and score a goal or two, which is
sorry, Paulie. I think it was just on that. I think it was interesting at the start of the Monday Night Football last night on Sky Sports. They analysed just the amount of chances that Liverpool are creating, especially in away games this season, and the amount of chances they're creating. I think last year were on average about 10, and I think this year their average is down about 5 or 6. So chances created. But I think that comes from, it's interesting, they talked about the attackers and the creative inputs like that. I think it's more of a defensive issue, because how often do you hear teams talking about, in order to be effective going forward, Paulie, you need to be able to trust the defence behind you. And I think you're seeing people like Mane, even someone like Mane, he's having to not just think about going forward anymore now. He's also thinking about, I've got to protect my fullback more than probably I ever had to, because my centre backs aren't as good now. I just think it's just in the back of their minds a little bit about the defence, and that's affecting their attacking output, if you know what I mean.
For sure. They're relying on Mane and Salah and Firmino, and when he's fit, Jota to create more on their own. But the big issue is one of my mate who's a Liverpool fan said the issue has been Fabinho, because Fabinho plays in defense and our defense is fine. Like, we've replaced Van Dijk in that respect, but we need we need him in midfield. And you could tell how going forward, we aren't as potent going forward because we're lacking that Fabinho character in midfield. And yesterday they got Thiago back, but you have Jordan Henderson and Fabinho back there that hurts your midfield. And it just puts more pressure on the front three to do it all themselves, which is just tiring them out even more. So, yes, like, you know, we should celebrate the fact that we are joint top of Liverpool. We can go, 2 out of the 3 results that we could pick up against Burnley can put us in sole possession of first place when we go into Anfield in 2 weeks. And we should celebrate that. You can't rule Liverpool out in any way, shape, or form. They are experienced. They have been there before. But there are very big and valid concerns about Liverpool going forward. They're definitely going to drop points. And that's it. Like, we're going to drop points too, because we have flaws. So does everybody else.
That Liverpool defence last night was very reminiscent of a defence that Sir Alex Ferguson had to play in 09-10, if you remember, when he played Michael Carrick and
Darren Fletcher and Evra as your back three, and Park Ji-sung like coming in there somewhere. Yeah, because United that season were coming off the back of just winning 2 titles back to back, and they did struggle that year, obviously losing Ronaldo and things like that. So that really reminded me of that, to be fair, Polly. But look, I think we should move on to what's on social media, because I'm starting to worry that this is becoming the Liverpool happy hour, or sad hour, I should say, rather than the United happy hour. What's the difference between a Liverpool sad hour and a United happy hour?
They're probably both the same. There's something somewhere in the middle.
That sounded like a joke, but there's no punchline.
Exactly. Right, let's take a look what's on social media. Yeah, exactly, Paulie. The sound of silence. It's just United winning, mate. So everything's very quiet, if you ask me. There's not a lot out there to criticise. The Ollie outers seem quite quiet at the moment. The Ollie ins have also been quiet, because I don't think they want to tempt fate or anything like that, Paulie. But
they got nobody to fight against.
No, exactly. And also, like you said, they've nobody to fight against. But it is interesting to see that actually when United are successful, how much quieter it is out there. And I think this is when you see media companies, which we'll talk about in a little bit, try and get more creative with how they can criticise in order to make news, if you know what I mean. But I just one thing that has sort of come from it, Paulie, it's not so much, obviously, we're saying United are quiet, and United media outlets have been quite quiet, and the people who generally criticise United have been quiet. But other teams have been talking about us a little fair bit. I've noticed, managers, rival managers, and none more so than Jurgen Klopp probably last night, starting the mind games early. It's not quite Rafa Benitez, that's the fact yet. But, the mind games, the German mind games have started. I've even seen Sky Sports coming in on this today to analyse it, to see if he has a point over the whole penalty myth thing. I mean, where are you on this, Paulie? I mean, Klopp, is he rattled, or is he making a valid point?
No, he's not making a valid point. And it's not that he's rattled. It's just the fact that he is now, United are good. They're starting to worry him. It's something that's on his mind. And that's the whole thing is United are now pushing forward and getting people to take notice of them. And the real thing is, and this is we're getting annoyed. Like, United fans are getting annoyed. This is exactly what Sir Alex Ferguson used to do, especially, when they named the referee for a match, and he'd be like, I don't know if this referee can handle United Liverpool. He's not exactly a strong referee. And it's just that little mind game to try to swing something in your favor for the upcoming match. And that's what Klopp's trying to do. He's saying United win a lot of penalties. So therefore, whoever's I'm going to make a big stink about it now so that the Premier League has to go and say, hey, make sure we don't give them a soft penalty. And therefore, the referee is going to be thinking about that next Sunday. And if there's a small touch foul, United aren't going to get that decision. And look, United just got a soft penalty on Friday. I mean, Paul Pogba tripped himself. And he did a good job of it. He made it. There was a little bit of contact. He threw his leg into his other leg. And so it's a soft one. But the thing is, we have VAR now, and it's supposed to mitigate these. It's supposed to balance things out in that if the referee makes a mistake, you won't get it. But
the only thing I'll say on that penalty, though, Paul, that a lot of people haven't seemed to pick up on is Douglas Luiz seems to be pulling on his arm the whole time when he receives that ball. And I know that the decisive, I don't know what Michael Oliver's decision was, whether he went with the thought that there was a trip on the leg or whether he was looking at this. We never hear from the referees, which would be helpful. But I mean, I'm not saying Douglas Luiz pulling on Pogba's arm is enough to bring him down, because we're talking about one of the strongest players in the Premier League in Paul Pogba. But people seem to forget that fact that he was pulling on his arm quite a bit, regardless of who tripped who.
Yeah, and look, I thought it was soft, but VAR is there to prevent mistakes. So in terms of soft, doesn't always mean clear and obvious mistake. Soft can mean, yeah, that's a penalty, but like you didn't have. If you didn't give it, no one would really be complaining either. No. But at the end of the day, it still balances out. You go back to Crystal Palace on the opening day of the season. Pogba gets tripped, his boot comes off. In the box. And they looked at it and said, no penalty. And by the book, that was as clear-cut a penalty as you get. And then later that weekend, Thiago does like even less against Chelsea, but it's a very similar situation. He brushes up contact off the ball and he trips Timo Werner, and it's a penalty. So if that's the way you're calling it, then when Pogba gets tripped and his boot comes off, that's a clear-cut penalty. And if United are given that penalty, who knows how that first game goes. But that's the thing is sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. Like, yes, United got a soft penalty on Friday. At the end of the day, they still balance out. But the whole thing, this is the thing about United fans, and I always say this, is we're sheep. And the reason that that internet companies run with these stories is because United fans are going to respond.
Yeah,
always. And some of the responses put up this tweet from United Way, which penalties since the 2002-2003 season, like Liverpool 106, or Liverpool 108, United or 106 and 105. I mean, come on. If you have to go back to 2002 to try to be like, hey, Liverpool have one more penalty, no, there's 15 years of irrelevance.
Yeah,
there. Like, come on, like you're just making yourself look stupid.
What I would say, Paulie, is I'm just gonna do it again. If you didn't see it the first time, guys, embrace it. Enjoy it. Don't respond. I don't think, like you said, Paulie, don't be cheap. Don't take the bait. Don't respond to all this. It's the same with United just jumping all over Klopp. It's kind of feeding the fight. I mean, it was interesting to say that. I think one of the other questions that they asked Klopp after the game yesterday was, are you preparing for United? Are you thinking about United again? Thinking about United, in the game. And he was like, no, we've got Villa in the cup first. Everything like this. But yeah,
what a diplomatic answer, because he does not care about Villa in the cup.
Exactly. And also, as well, Paul, the comment about the referee is, again, that's more in preparation for the referee who's going to be refereeing that game against Liverpool. It hasn't been decided yet. But that's one for his sort of notes. And obviously we see here the comment from Adichie that Klopp's pulling the Lampard. Hopefully narratives don't work on refs. Premier League refs aren't exactly known for their competence. It's an interesting point because there was always this myth, wasn't there, under Sir Alex Ferguson that away teams never got a penalty at the Stretford End at Old Trafford. And you do wonder sometimes, they're only human, if these comments do get into their psyche a little bit. And that's why, obviously, Fergie used to do it as much as he did. I don't know what you think.
That's because away teams didn't get penalties at the Stretford End because they're attacking that end typically in the first half when everybody's fresh. They couldn't get the ball near the box at the Stretford End. So, like Liverpool sit and launch a million crosses into the box a game, and then they're going up for headers. You're not going to win penalties that way. United, and this is one of the reasons Luke Shaw plays over Tellez, is they pass the ball into the box at their feet. They use, Rashford, Martial, Bruno, run at defenders and with their feet, and they're all very good at drawing fouls, and then they draw fouls in the box, and they get a lot of penalties because they have the ball at their feet in the box. If you put the ball in the air and it's who could get up there and win a header, you're not going to win a penalty.
No, and I think I agree what Joe just said here. I think our fans need to embrace hatred. Yeah, we do, but I think there's a way of embracing it. I think just sit back and enjoy it, smile, laugh, do whatever you have to do.
Right, Joseph, embrace it. Don't get wound up by it.
Yeah, don't bite to it, if you know what I mean. That's what I would say anyway. But Paulie, it's a bit of a strange situation for United fans because 7 years since we've really been truly involved in. I know we finished second under Mourinho, but we were 19 points behind that. So I never really felt we were in a title.
Right, by January we were cooked.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a new experience for a few of us out there. But yeah, I mean, why do you think other people feel the need when we start coming up like this, Paulie, to talk about us? Why do you think that is?
It's jealousy. I mean, Harry Maguire said it earlier this year. It's jealousy of where we are. And it's the people on the internet are trying to build their brand. And, if you want to build your brand, take a shot at the king. That's what you do. Get noticed by the big, because, that's where all the United fans are. There's more of us.
Yeah.
And that's what'll help you rise in prominence.
Just one more thing on this, Paulie, before we move on. Since the introduction of VAR, why would referees feel the pressure from managers? VAR is bringing accuracy, and that's what ensures referees are doing their job. It's a great idealistic view, that Lokesh, but actually, I think what we've got to remember is VAR is also controlled by human beings. It's not controlled by robots, and they'll also have their thoughts before a game as well. It's the same referees that you see on the pitch. They're no different, and they have a decision to make from wherever they are. But you would hope that VAR makes the game more accurate. But I think one thing we've seen since it's come in, Paul, is that there's still plenty of room for talking points, I think.
For sure, and like we said, clear and obvious error versus soft. So, if the referee doesn't give that soft penalty, VAR may not say, maybe like, if you would have given this, we would have stood by this call, this decision. But if you're not giving it, we don't think that's a mistake either. And, that's up to you. So it can still bring an influence. But overall, VAR is supposed to balance that out.
Yeah, look, let's move on to something more positive, Paulie. There's been some great news, as far as I'm concerned, in the last couple of days on social media regarding Manchester United. And here it is. You've whacked it up for us, Paulie. The idea that, the confirmation that Darren Fletcher is going to join the first team coaching staff. I think that's a very good move. I don't follow the under-16s, I have to be honest. I know he's been working with those guys, but apparently his work's been very good there, and that's what's led to this opportunity. But again, it's another former player that I always feel has spoken well when I've seen him in the media, but also knows all about the DNA of this club. And I think I think you can't deny he ended up having a successful career at the club. So I'm all for this move. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I like it. I don't know too much about it. Darren Fletcher's not on American TV, so I don't know. But everybody that I've heard loves the move, and everybody speaks very highly of Darren. And I find it funny. Like, look, at the end of the day, he's got the United DNA. Okay, at a certain point, you need something else. Like, Sir Alex Ferguson brought in a lot of coaches who didn't have the United DNA, so it's not a prerequisite. Though it helps.
Yeah.
I've heard he's a very strong, like he's a studious tactical guy. And he's actually said now, whenever I watch matches, I wish I could watch a match and enjoy it. Instead, I'm just looking at the tactical side of things. I find it funny. Look, the backroom staff, I don't like McPhelan. I think we could do better there. It's just, everybody's praising this move now, but as soon as things get a little rocky, the backroom staff was always the thing that people who are Ollie in would like turn to when they didn't want to be like, oh, it's Ollie. They'd always be like, well, the backroom staff isn't strong. Yeah. And it's like, okay, Jose Mourinho is the one that the first one that they do is they'd throw Kieran McKenna under the bus. And it's like, Jose Mourinho was the one that hired Kieran McKenna. Jose Mourinho is the one that hired Michael Carrick.
Yeah.
Solskjaer really kept the backroom staff. He did add McPhelan, and that's one I do think he could be better on. I wish to God he would hire a set piece coach to just coach us on set pieces on both sides of the pitch. Yeah. Because if we stop conceding from set pieces, we'd be a much better squad. And if we start scoring consistently on them, that we are doing better this year, we'd be very dangerous. And that's like a simple thing to do. But everybody loves it now. And then, when we suffer a few losses and people don't want to like turn on Ollie because they'll be like, oh, the long-term things that he's doing and he's building, like you'll notice how quick they're going to be like, well, Darren Fletcher is inexperienced. Is he the right guy to be a backroom coach?
I know what you're saying, Paulie. I think the thing is that maybe this is the starting of the phasing out of Mike Phelan as well. We don't know. Maybe Darren might be taking on a lot of Phelan's workload. We don't know how it works. I'm kind of doubtful about that because I've always had this idea that I reckon Mike Phelan's probably the best placed coach in the club to coach the defence because he was a defender himself. And I'm wondering how much work he actually does to his defence because I look at the rest of our coaches. I'm not sure about Kieran McKenna's playing career, but, whenever he's had jobs in academies, he's always played an attacking style of football. Michael Carrick himself was a midfielder from his odd couple of games at centre-back. And, and obviously Darren Fletcher, a midfielder himself. So I don't know, but, maybe this is the start of a phasing out. And I think some young blood is good. And one thing I will say about this Darren Fletcher move, Paulie, whenever there's been talk about United bringing a director of football in, a sporting director, technical director, whatever you want to talk about, Darren Fletcher is one of those names that's come up as a potential candidate for that job. So, they obviously think he's got a certain level of intelligence as a football man and a certain understanding of obviously the direction that United want to go in moving forward, I think. So I think it's a fair enough move.
Yeah, I like it.
For every positive, Paulie, let's go back and look at something else that you've dragged up on social media and TalkSport, who seem to have a massive proverbial hammer that they love to whack Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think they see Ole Gunnar Solskjaer as a game of whack-a-mole where they just see his head popping over and just have to hit it at every possible opportunity. Dean Ashton saying that, and he's not the only person to sort of suggest this on social media and on TalkSport, but Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would not be Manchester United manager without Bruno Fernandes, says Dean Ashton as he praises the Portugal talisman. Now, I will caveat that, Paulie, by saying, as I said to you off air, in that interview, he also did say that Manchester United are doing really well at the moment. He's been impressed. He's also been impressed that Ollie's managed to turn around the early season poor form. He actually also said he actually thinks Bruno Fernandes now is a better player than Kevin De Bruyne, which is obviously massive praise, for someone like Bruno, and obviously reflects well on the club. But
look, Joe, he could have waxed poetically, what TalkSport's putting in their headline because they're trying to get clicks. That's what they are. They're gobshit idiots who are they're just trying to get clicks. And this is their bread and butter. This is the only thing they can fall back on, is because they're not going to go and criticize Lampard. They're not criticizing Arteta. The only thing they have is to criticize Ollie. And it's like, just give it a rest already. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. If Bruno Fernandes didn't come, Ollie probably wouldn't be the manager anymore, because we'd have finished the season out with Andreas Pereira and Jesse Lingard. Pogba would have come back into the team, but would he have been able to rally us as much? We probably would have been too far down, and we probably wouldn't have been able to rally as much, because we were better with Pogba and Bruno, not just with Pogba. And then this season, who knows how that plays out. But probably not well, because Bruno's been, especially when everybody was playing like shit, Bruno carried us on his back.
Yeah.
So he's not wrong, but give it a rest, because it just gives rise to this whole thing of, well, Ollie, is only good because he has Bruno Fernandes, who's a superstar, which is just about the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Because Pep Guardiola has Kevin De Bruyne, and he's got Riyad Mahrez and Sergio Aguero and Raheem Sterling. And Pep Guardiola has never won a Champions League without Messi. Sir Alex Ferguson had Beckham, Giggs, Keane, Scholes, and he got 78 points with that team. And you need good players, and you need good managers. And what I found interesting was last week, to promote his new book, Arsene Wenger appeared on the Men in Blazers show, which the Men in Blazers was a podcast by two Englishmen in America, which then became a TV show. And they were interviewing him, and they asked him point blank, about would you say you would be, how lucky would you say you are that you had Thierry Henry? Would you be where you are without Thierry Henry? Would we look at you like this great coach? And his response was, of course. Let's not forget many coaches. We are lucky to meet people who make us win games. It is not us who win games. The most important part is the player. But the only thing I can say is a good team with a bad coach doesn't work for a long time. A good coach with a bad team doesn't work for a long time. So you need the meeting of the two. So you need good players, good coach. But now look at what Solskjaer's done with Bruno Fernandes. I mean, Bruno Fernandes is a player who, he was tearing it up at Sporting, but look at what his numbers are. In his first season at Sporting, non-penalty goals and assists per 90, 0.55. Second year, 0.83. Third year, 0.65. Pretty good. Then he comes to United. So he leaves the Farmers League of Portugal and comes to the Premier League, which is not exactly an easy step to make, as you're looking at Alex Telles, who is struggling. You look at Timo Werner and Kai Havertz, who are struggling coming from the Bundesliga. Look at Henrik Mkhitaryan, how he struggled coming from the Bundesliga. It's not an easy transition. And that number is now, last season, 0.83. This season, 0.90. So he's improved. It's not just that, we got this good player and he's doing what he did. No, he's gotten better.
Yeah, he has. And look, Sky Sports last night were making comparisons to the impact on him in Cantona, and the actual comparisons were frightening to the impact. Everyone credits Cantona as the man that got United over the line and started that period of dominance under Sir Alex Ferguson. I think United's win rate before Cantona joined United under Fergie was 1.38. When Cantona joined, it went up to 2.21 points per game, and it was quite weird. I think United's win percentage pre-Bruno was 1.44 points a game. Since Bruno's come in, it's become 2.221 points a game. So I think it's a weird comparison, but he's that kind of character that sort of galvanizes a club. I think, Paul, that's the thing. It's not just him that's got better. I think he's made the players around him better, and that's also key as well.
100%. The attitude, everything. I mean, you look last year. This was a team that, if they went behind 1-0 at any point in the game, any point, first minute, 88th minute, didn't matter. They won twice in those games. It happened in a bunch. They only came back to, even if they equalized right away, they never got over the hump. No. This year, you see it. We go down 1-0, and it's just like, oh, all right, we're going to come from behind again.
I think this is a great comment as well, Paul. Bruno Fernandes would not be Bruno Fernandes without Ollie either. And it was interesting. I think Bruno did like a 20-minute interview. I think it's on the United app. Check it out, guys. He did it at sort of like an end of year, summing up his year at United and obviously everything like that, and just talking about how well it's gone so far. And one of the things he made mention of there, made a point of, is just about the trust that he's got from Ollie as well. He knows in Ollie, he's got a manager there that's actually we talked about it on the last United Happy Hour, is going to allow him to almost go out there and make these stupid mistakes, Paulie, and get away, and sort of have another go and come back and do it again. You know, there's a lot of managers, for as good as Bruno's been, will get very fed up with some of the other aspects of his game that we've talked about before, Paulie, and will come down quite heavy on him, I think. But
like Wenger just said with the meeting of the two.
Yeah.
It was the perfect marriage between United play this system that requires a player of exactly Bruno Fernandes's skill set, and Bruno Fernandes being put into a system that amplifies his exact skill set. I've put on the screen on, if you're watching on YouTube, you could see it. The difference between when Bruno plays in a 4-2-3-1 versus when he plays in any other formation, the diamond or with a back three, when there's two split strikers. And the difference being that when you're playing with split strikers and Bruno's playing as the quote unquote 10 between the midfield and the split strikers, there's nobody directly in front of him. He's not playing off anybody. So he ends up playing as like a number 9 or a false 9. And that's not his game. And you could see the numbers just go down significantly. And this is why when everybody says, oh, is Ollie going to play a back three or a diamond? This is why he doesn't like to do that, because you get the best out of Bruno Fernandes in a 4-2-3-1. And Bruno Fernandes is your best player. So you, therefore, are going to take this. That's where you're going to start. You're going to say, Bruno's the first name on the team sheet.
Yeah.
Where does he play? Okay. Where is he best? Okay, we have to play this formation, and that means Pogba has to play either on the left wing or in the pivot, which is not going to get you the best out of Paul Pogba. But the trade-off is fine, because you're getting you want Bruno to be at his very best, and that's so Ollie put him in a situation that allows him to be the very best and allows him to carry the team. Like when everybody says this isn't Ollie, this is just Bruno, and it's what, he's played, I think he has 25 caps for Portugal. He has 2 goals. Why isn't he doing this at the international level? Because in Europe, you play some real bad teams. You don't just play France. You play some bad teams too. And if your answer is, oh, well, it's because he has Ronaldo and he's playing more reserved and he's playing a different, that's exactly the point. Manager put him in this situation to thrive in. And there's also just been a difference in how Bruno has evolved this season alone, because if you remember a few weeks ago, we spoke about this. I showed you the touches from the Everton game and how we were talking about how he wants to play as this number 10, but he's just not playing as a number 10. He doesn't get into the box, and how against Everton, he touched the ball in the box 3 times and the ball was in the net all 3 times. And we said, Ollie's got to kind of figure this out a bit, in that you want to put Bruno in, you want to tell Bruno, hey, be a number 10 and be more structured, but you don't want to lose Bruno. You don't want to tie a leash around Bruno. You need him to run free. Yeah. But since that game, there's been a stark difference in Bruno. The stats are on the screen, but United are using him less. He was taking about, he was getting 12% of their touches throughout every game. 12% of United's touches were Bruno's. Now that's down to 11. His defensive third, middle third, he's still touching the ball more, but in the attacking third, he's touching the ball less. But look at that. The big number there is touches in the box. He's touching the ball about 2 more times a game in the box.
Yeah.
It's not making him any worse as a player. 1.27 goals and assists to 1.23. That's hardly a drop off. But look at United. Everybody else is getting better, because now when United get the ball, Bruno's coming back to help start the play, and he's dropping into midfield in the middle to help progress the ball. But then when United get the ball in the attacking third, instead of hanging outside the box and trying to facilitate from there, he's letting the other players do that, and he's getting into the box, and United are such a better team because of it.
But Paulie, for me, this is what I don't understand about these big media corporations. There's a couple of points I want to make here, so just bear with me. TalkSport cannot look at Manchester United. I don't think anyone can look at Manchester United at the moment and think, since Bruno Fernandes has come to this club, he is the only player that has been successful or done well. I think since he's come to this club, there are so many more players that have improved the game. I think people like McTominay and Fred have become better players. Anthony Martial's become a better player. Marcus Rashford's movement off the ball since Bruno Fernandes has come in has been tenfold. I mean, when you see Marcus now, his movement when he sees Bruno pick up the ball, he just comes alive. We didn't have that before. So this is why I don't understand why people say this, because I don't think it's only Bruno that's got better since Bruno come in. I think the whole team has. And if you can't see that, then you don't understand football. You just have to use your eyes.
How many goals did Martial have before Bruno got here, and how many?
Exactly, yeah. And I think that. And what happens when other players improve, Paulie? You improve as a team, and you get more wins, you get more points.
Yeah. People are going to say Martial's been terrible this year. Martial's been really good this year. It's one aspect of his game has eluded him.
Yeah.
It is unfortunately the biggest aspect that we judge strikers on, but that's going to come back. He's going to refine his form there. Everything else that Martial is doing, he's been fantastic on. And Rashford, look, we never spoke about this on the show, but you and I have spoken about this in text. We've spoken about this after we record. I had spoken about Rashford and some doubts that I had about him, and things were breaking down. And he has turned around as a player, although some of that has to do with Paul Pogba and not so much Bruno.
Yeah.
And just the things that Pogba does that opens up the things for Rashford. It like I said, what's happening now is
Pogba's improved.
That's another big one. That's really a huge one. Is Bruno? His numbers between, you saw that 1.27 to 1.23 hasn't really changed between the first 2 months of the season when everybody was playing like crap to now. But he put the team on his back and dragged us there.
Yeah.
He's good enough to do that. But if you ask him to do that over the course of a season, he's going to break down, and he's going to break down sooner rather than later. So that's the beauty of this, is the fact that we're not running through Bruno as much. The fact that his touches have gone down by a whole percent means we're not relying on him to create everything and to run through him. Other people are picking up the torch, which means when Bruno has a bad game, we still win. We could still win. 2 months ago, if Bruno had a bad game, we had no chance. That I sat here saying that, being like, his ceiling, he needs to raise his ceiling. It's not about raising his ceiling. It's about raising his floor. Because right now, when he's bad, the whole team is bad. But that's not happening anymore. And I think we're getting close to the point where if he got hurt for a couple of weeks and missed 3 to 4 games, we'd be okay.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that on Thursday.
Yeah,
what we would do, but the real important thing is that we're using him less, which puts less pressure on him. The same way how we spoke at the top of the show, how Liverpool were putting so much pressure on Mane and Firmino and Salah to do it themselves because they had to fix issues at the back. Is now that everybody else is stepping up and taking a chunk of the burden, it's putting less pressure on Bruno. We don't need to rest him as often. And therefore, it'll make us better long term.
But before we finish on this, Paulie, I just want to make that point. I mean, you put the stats up there earlier about touches inside the box for Bruno, and they've gone up, and that's great. But I would like to think that maybe even the touches of our attackers inside the box has gone up since Bruno's come in. And even Pogba. I mean, you talked at the top of the show about it's disappointing in the couple of games to see Pogba pass up the opportunity to shoot. We've seen Van der Beek do it a couple of times that he plays. But for me, it's encouraging that these players are getting that far forward, Paulie. And they're getting that far forward because they know that there's quality coming into the box now. Pogba's happy to make these moves into the box because he knows if it's coming from Bruno, and even like the likes of Luke Shaw, whose creativity has been good from the left-hand side, he knows he's going to receive the ball now. And I think that makes a big difference to players when they're thinking about going in the box. Players aren't going to go into the box naturally, Paulie, if they don't think they're going to receive the ball, because they're going to be like, well, what's the point? Like, it's a waste of energy.
The movement of Martial on his goal on Friday was fantastic. That ball went wide to Wan-Bissaka, and you saw him. He's kind of just running up the pitch. And then when Wan-Bissaka gets close to crossing, you see him kind of switch on. And this is what we talked about, what Cavani brings to the team. You see him kind of switch on and he goes, I'm going to the near post, and he gets there. And there was because before the cross even came in, right before the cross comes in, normally it's like, I'm going to run to the near post, and you kind of just make that run and you keep running. And if the ball hits you, it hits. But no, he stopped. He went, I'm going to this point, and that's where the ball is supposed to come. Because if you watch it again, you will actually see he stops and turns his body right before Wan-Bissaka kicks that ball. Wan-Bissaka's already in the kicking motion. It's not like he got there and Wan-Bissaka looked up and said, oh, there you are, going to be kicking. He's already in the kicking motion, but it's Wan-Bissaka knew to kick the ball to this point, and Martial ran to this point. And that's something that we hadn't been seeing a lot, or consistently seeing from United's forwards.
No, I agree, Paulie. Look, Paulie, I think we should probably look to move the conversation on to the poll question. Let's have a look. Let's have a look what you gave the viewers to vote on this week. So yeah, guys, thank you for watching so far. This is the part of the show now where we're gonna discuss the poll question that was put up on our Twitter page yesterday at United Happy Hour. Paulie normally puts one up there on a Monday for you guys to vote on, and then we discuss it on the show. We're also going to talk about our predicted 11s for City for tomorrow. So if you're in the comments there and you're watching right now, if you're enjoying the video, hit a like, hit a subscribe on the channel, but also get involved, get in the comments. Tell us what you think your 11s will be for the weekend. For the weekend. I'm thinking the weekend game, for the midweek game against Man City in the League Cup. Looking forward to seeing some of your suggestions. Paulie, have you got the poll result there for us? Here we go. So
Took me a while, but yes, thank you for filling that time.
I think I probably caught you a bit off guard there, mate. It's probably more my fault, to be fair. Don't worry about it. But the poll that you put up this week for us was, who should Ole Gunnar Solskjaer select in midfield for Wednesday's Carabao Cup semi-final against Manchester City? And this is all around the idea of a double pivot or maybe a diamond, like that you've given the option to, and plenty of people have voted. A lot of people seem to suggest that we'll go with McTominay and Fred. Double pivot, that's got the majority of the votes at 46.2%. It's gone again from me, so I can't quite see it. I think second though was the diamond formation, Paulie, that you gave there as an option.
Yeah, second was I'm sorry. I didn't realize I didn't take that off the screen as I.
It's all right, mate. Don't worry. We're having a few.
Now we got our 11s.
Yeah, our 11s on the screen now, but I'll go through our 11s first of all, and then I'll go back to ask you the questions about the poll, Paulie. So I've got to put this nice and close to me because I'm struggling here. So my 11 is basically an unchanged 11. I would go with kind of what we had against Villa. I like the way it worked. I like the way that Pogba was further up the field, just because it looks like you're setting him out further up the field. And if you put him there, he'll tend to hold his position there, come inside a little bit, make runs into the box. That's why I like him on the left side of that three. I just feel sometimes when you play him as a double pivot or even as a number 10, he'll not move too far from there because either under instruction or because he doesn't feel like he wants to leave his position. But I think if you put him in an attacking position, he will attack. So that's why I've gone for that. I was happy with that team. I think this is a really important game for United and Solskjaer. I think you've made a point earlier, Paulie, about us getting this monkey off our back about getting through semi-finals into finals, turning them finals into wins. So I don't think he's going to look at it as a normal Carabao Cup game and make wholesale changes. There may be a change or two, but I would actually stick with that. I think they've got a chance to play again. I think they've got the energy to do it. We've got Watford at the weekend, where if you want to rotate a little bit, he can do it in that game. I think if there was a big Premier League game at the weekend, he may have to look at making more changes. But no, I disagree with that. I disagree with that. It's a semifinal. And Hader and I were just talking about this on Twitter about an hour ago. It's a semifinal. Yeah. And it doesn't matter that it's just the League Cup. That goes out the window the second you make the semifinal. Once you make the semifinals, it doesn't matter what the competition is. Every manager takes it seriously. And you are not going to take Bruno Fernandes out of your starting 11 in a semifinal because you have Burnley next week and Liverpool in 11 days.
Even if you had Liverpool on Saturday, you will not take Bruno Fernandes or Marcus Rashford out of your Could you imagine Ole Gunnar Solskjaer going into the dressing room today, Tuesday, and saying, Bruno, Harry, can I speak with you guys for a second? And then sitting them down and saying, I'm not going to play you tomorrow. We've got Burnley coming up next week. That's a big game. We need you. We've got Liverpool in 11 days, and I need you fit. I know you signed with United for the opportunity to win trophies, but I'm not going to play you in a semifinal because it's just the League Cup. If you don't put Bruno Fernandes on the team, you lost him. That's it. He's gone, and you lost your job. This is the game that Bruno Fernandes wants. This is why he signed for United, because you signed for United because, we rotate our squad in the League Cup, but our reserves, when we put out Jesse Lingard and Brandon Williams against Luton Town and against Brighton, we have a better shot of beating those teams when they rotate their squad and getting me to the semifinals of the League Cup.
Yeah.
So, trophy, whatever, it doesn't matter that it's just the League Cup. It's the semifinals at this point. And once you hit this stage of the competition, it is your first choice players. And the fact that you have Watford at the weekend, which means you can fully rotate the squad, means we're going to go with that.
I just quickly, Paulie, to follow up on that as well. I think this is the only time that I've ever subscribed to Mourinho thinking, in the sense that Mourinho, and I think even Guardiola to some extent, have this idea that winning the Carabao Cup can be a springboard to success further down the line. So you win something where the final is, that's the difference this year. The final is normally end of February, beginning of March. Obviously, it's being moved to April 25th. And it's usually quite a nice fillet for a team who are top of going for a league. If you can win something and taste that success in February, March time, it kind of gives you a good opportunity to spring off to the end of the season. Now, the final is more towards the end of the season this year, being in April. But if United are still in the title race come with 5-6 games to go, winning a League Cup in April could be huge for them, Paulie. So I think,
exactly.
Yeah, I think I'm with you, mate, and that's why I'm putting a strong team out. I'm just thinking, when push comes to shove, what would he do? But like you say, I think you can't leave people like Bruno and Rashford out of these games because you lose.
This is what you signed for United for, to win trophies. So now we're at the winning trophy time of the thing. And as you saw, we didn't read it out, but I opted for I think this is one of the biggest challenges for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer in his career, in his managerial career.
Tell us about your team, Paulie, because I know you've written about this as well today. So give us a little bit of a lowdown about your team for tomorrow.
So I did write this piece, and you could check. The link is actually in the info on YouTube. This is the biggest challenge of Solskjaer's career. Not because he can't beat Pep. We know he can beat Pep. He's done that plenty of times. We know he could beat other players. But his tendency is when he does beat you, he goes back to the same thing. And that's not going to work this time. You saw it. We put up the comment from Aditya in the beforehand, but Pep took McTominay and Fred out of that game last time we played, and that wasn't the first time that's happened. Frank Lampard did it too, and after they played really well against PSG, Thomas Tuchel came into Old Trafford and did the same thing.
Yeah,
it was. Keep the ball on the outside. Keep it on the outside, and when it goes to the middle to Fred and McTominay, let them have it and let them pass it past you, and they can't do that. And Pep just kept the ball on the outside, which when City lost the ball, they were well, United couldn't get it to Rashford, and it was Greenwood who was playing, or Pogba or Fernandes. City were guarded against the counterattack. McTominay and Fred are at their best where they clog up that middle, they disrupt, and then it's just a simple pass to Bruno or to wide to progress the ball. They don't have to worry about that, and you can hit him on the counter. You're not going to be able to counter against City. City are really good at preventing counters, and you look at their record in big games, McTominay and Fred as a pair, it's not good. I mean, it's not bad. They've never lost. And there's certainly something to say for not losing, but it's not bad, but it's not good. You know, their only wins came against Tottenham and City in the span of 3 days, and they're living off that. They had the game against Chelsea in the League Cup where Rashford scored a penalty and hit a wonder free kick. And then they beat PSG this year, but then they also lost to PSG.
Yeah.
And I highlight it in the piece. Thomas Tuchel, especially, it helped that they went 1-0 up, but they just stopped attacking. They just sat back and were like, hey, McTominay, Fred, pass through us.
Yeah.
And they couldn't. And that's what Pep will do. So, like, you need to have your passers in the game here. So I opted for a diamond formation, which, if you know me, I am staunchly anti-diamond. Very anti-diamond, because I don't think you get the best out of Rashford. I don't think you get the best out of Martial. And you very much don't get the best out of Bruno. We showed you the numbers beforehand. They go way down. But this isn't about, you know, switching to the diamond first, you know, permanently. This is about a one-off. And like for Ollie, it's all right. McTominay and Fred are great at not losing these games. And if this was a league fixture, there's certainly an argument for that. But it's a one-off. It's a cup game. You need to win. I don't know if you go with that. You want to keep Fred in there because he brings you the energy and he has that passing, but you need the passing of Matic also. And I think you just approach this the same way you beat the same way you approached RB Leipzig at home. Is you play that diamond so it clogs up the middle. Pogba gets to go further forward. He has that freedom. You want Pogba on the pitch. Pogba's been sensational as of late. His last 6 starts, United have won 5 of them. So as much of a liability as he's been, clearly not so much because United are still winning. Pogba has this one issue, and I was talking to Hader about it today. Like, look, we know what his issue is. He doesn't track back. But I was talking to Hader about it today. Like, defensively, Pogba's really good. And he's really good at defending set pieces. When it comes to so you want him on the pitch. When it comes to actually defending, he's great. It's just the act of tracking back and getting back on defense that he's terrible at.
And something about City as well. I remember when he first joined, Paulie, there was a game when he played with Fellaini, I think, as a double pivot. And he just kept vacating his position. And
I would do that too.
Game had no chance.
I would do that too, just to be like, stop playing me with freaking Fellaini.
I remember that game. It just
once he's back, he's sensational. And like, look, there have been games where when he needs to put in a shift, City a month ago, Liverpool in 2018-19, Barcelona, both legs. When he needs to put in an offensive shift, he'll do it, and he's good at it. It's literally just the act of tracking back. If you play this diamond, you have that 3-man midfield, which condenses and blocks the middle, which Pep is going to try to avoid anyway. And when they go out wide, you have Fred, you have Pogba available to help out your fullbacks. Because this completely stifled Leipzig, because then Bruno drops into midfield with Matic and like when it goes out on the right, Shaw's there, Pogba's there. Matic and Fred are still in the middle, and Bruno's dropping a little, and Martial's coming back a little. So you concede all the possession you want on the wings because they're not going to hurt you. And this is what happened with Leipzig: is Leipzig got all this possession on the wings, but had nowhere to go because the middle was gone.
Yeah, there's a couple of questions from Adichie that I want to ask you about your diamond formation, because they seem to be specific to the formation that you've picked. Although these questions came in one of these came in a little bit earlier, Paulie, and it was from Adichie, and he said, would you play Van der Beek instead of Bruno in a diamond? Who does the false 9 role suit more? Now, we've often said Adichie's your burner account, mate, so be careful what you say here.
This is proof that it is not, because that is we tried that against RB Leipzig, and I mean, Van der Beek was okay, but like you saw how different the game became when Bruno Fernandes came in the game. Like, this is the thing I say about certain people. Like, probably the king of this is Scott McTominay, in that he is not actively bad. You know, it's not like he's running out there and making tons of mistakes and being picked on and being exposed. But there are times where, he's got the ball in possession and it takes him a split second longer to make the pass. And because of that, the pass isn't open. So he doesn't make it. Okay. So he doesn't give the ball away, but then he's just playing a square ball or recycling possession. And it, so it doesn't, he looks safe. So it doesn't look bad, but then you actually replace him with a player who spots that pass and makes that pass. And you just see how much better the team becomes. So like Van de Beek was not actively bad in that game, but he wasn't good. And as soon as Bruno came in, you saw how the game completely changed. Now, the other thing is Van de Beek against Everton wasn't good. And against West Ham, he wasn't good. He hasn't been good. He hasn't been playing, and he hasn't been good this season. So you're wondering, what does Van de Beek need to do to play better, to play more? He needs to play better. Not saying that won't happen. I say this, and then people respond to me, and they go, he needs time, Paul. He needs time. Okay. Well, then right now, he's not ready. Yeah. That doesn't mean that in March, he won't be playing and tearing it up. But right now, I don't have time. I have today. I got to play today. So I'm not picking my team for March 12th. I'm picking my team for January 6th. Donny Van de Beek does not fit, and he has done nothing to earn this spot. But again, like this is the biggest game of the season so far. Yes, there's a bigger one in 2 weeks, but at the moment, this is your biggest game. And you're going to pick the guy who hasn't been playing as opposed to the guy who's dragged you here.
Yeah, there's no shame in saying that, Paulie. I mean, even Jose said yesterday the game against Brentford is probably his biggest game as a Tottenham manager. There's no shame in saying that. I mean, he's managing a club there that are looking to, they want to be known for winning trophies. They want to get that monkey off their back. But only thing I'll say on Van de Beek over Bruno in that position, the only thing that I think Donny's got on him in that is probably the runs into a box. He probably is better at making sort of late, intelligent runs in the box.
But you know what? We haven't seen that this year.
On Bruno, to be fair, there for me.
He is very good at making those runs, but we haven't seen that this year. The only time we saw it was against Everton when he was playing on the left wing, when he was basically playing as Rashford. And there was actually a point in the broadcast where you could hear Ole Solskjaer on the touchline saying, keep making those runs in behind Donny. And he was making those runs in like Rashford does. But like we said this on the show, like he's not Rashford. Rashford's taller. Rashford's faster. It's easier to get the ball to Rashford. If you play it in front of him, he'll run onto it. It's easier to see him. So like Donny's making the runs, but sometimes it's not easy to get it to him. But in the Premier League, he hasn't been receiving the ball in the box. He hasn't been shooting. He's taken 5 shots this year in all competitions. Like that's ridiculous from an attacking midfielder. And he has had plenty of chances to do that. And I just want to go back to this other comment from Aditya about the diamond. Look, I mean, I'm anti-diamond too. I think it's the right move for this game. And the whole thing about the diamond is it'll be like Villa, where it'll be kind of fluid in that it'll shift from a diamond to a 4-2-3-1 at times. Rashford will pull over to the right, Martial go middle, Bruno behind him, Pogba on the left. The key is the first game against City, we ended up in a 4-4-2 a lot with Bruno and Rashford, with Bruno and Pogba on the wings. And it was just, and with City, with McTominay and Fred there just trying to, they avoided them. So they were taken out of the game. And they were basically forcing Pogba and Bruno to do a lot of defending on the flanks. Yeah. And we couldn't do anything. So if you play this diamond and you kind of concede the flanks, they won't hurt you from there. Yeah. They're going to have to come inside to the middle. And then in the middle, when Pogba tucks in and you have Matic and Fred and Pogba, you have better passing options from the middle to spring attacks. And it's more that you can attack the middle because you are not going to be able to flick it up to Martial and he's going to one-touch pass it into Rashford in behind or Daniel James. If you think back to the game at the Etihad last year, Daniel James just tearing it up on that right side and even Lingard on the left, you're not going to be able to play that way. City do a great job of cutting out transitions now. You're going to have to look, are United good enough to play the possession game against City? I don't know. But that's what you're going to have to try to do because they are going to cut out your counterattack.
They've fallen for that too many times off United.
Right. This is the whole thing: is you beat them once, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Like, all right, Solskjaer went out and tried to play the exact same way in the first leg of the semifinal last year, and Pep destroyed him. Granted, he had to play with Andreas Pereira in midfield, and he had to play with Phil Jones on defense, but Pep targeted those two guys, destroyed them. So he changed it up in the second leg. He put it back three, and then he changed it up again with Bruno playing a back three in the league. So, this is why, like, in the NBA playoffs, they play 7-game series. And like in the NBA, like in basketball, the best teams should win. They should win like 90% of the times. But it goes back and forth because it's move, counter move, move, counter move. This is what they did. Okay, we're going to stop them. So that's the thing is this worked last week. And now you have to try something else because they're going to be ready to not let that beat you.
Yeah, no, I think, again, Paul, we've seen United try to do this, and we play the same way because it's been successful, and then eventually get found out with sort of PSG as well in the Champions League. You have to change at some point. You have to slightly adapt what you're doing. We've had a predicted 11 in here from Adichie, who says De Gea, Shaw, Bailly, O2 and Xavier, or Lindelof, depending on fitness. AWB, Matic. So you wouldn't even have
Maguire isn't there.
Maguire's an absolute lock-in for me just because
again, it's the same thing as Bruno. Like you signed for United to win trophy. He's the captain. You're not playing without your captain in the semifinal.
Yeah, and I just think
someone in the right before we go, Joe, and thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for getting involved in the comments. We will be back on Thursday. So we will be recapping this game. We will go bi-weekly again, maybe shorten up the show a bit. But thank you and join us again. Someone brought it up. Maguire does have 4 yellow cards this year. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that only counts in the league.
Okay.
So so it's weird the way that these things work. Like Matic getting a second yellow in the League Cup last year and being suspended for the Premier League is a joke.
Yeah, and obviously Edison Cavani's ban is across all formats as well, isn't it? So
right, that's fine because that was the FA stepped in and banned him for something else. But the card thing is weird. Like you could pick up, like Maguire could have picked up a 5th yellow on Friday and been suspended for this match.
Yeah,
but I don't think if he picks up a yellow on tomorrow, he would be suspended for Saturday's match. I think it goes back to I think the next yellow that he can get suspended for is in the Burnley match. And I mean, it would be our luck that Maguire would pick up a yellow for screaming at the ref or something and be suspended for the Liverpool match.
Yeah, it'd be typical. Look, Paulie, I'm like you. I'm going to wrap it up there. I just want to wrap it up on this Lockhead comment. He does put a lot in here, but this is quite a good one. Carrick and Fletcher in midfield. He's going to go all Sir Alex Ferguson when he brought Paul Scholes out of retirement for
to face City
game against Man City a few years ago. I like that.
Carrick and Fletcher in midfield, and then Ollie comes off the bench.
There we go. Why not? Why not? But that's a good note to leave it on, guys. Thank you, as Paulie said, for listening. It's been great doing this with you today. Thanks to you as well, Paulie, for joining me as always. And we'll see you again on Thursday for the next United Happy Hour. Take care, guys.